Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, there was this review by Mr Wanless and Mr Whittam, in that the Prime Minister said that their report meant that people looking for conspiracy theories would have to look elsewhere. I'm not looking for a conspiracy theory. To me, this stuff's actually fairly simple. There are always simple explanations. But we don't anymore need to look elsewhere. This is a copy of part of the Dickens file, what I call Dickens dossier number 2. This went to Leon Britton at the time. And we need to know why this then disappeared, what happened to it, where the Home Office investigation into it went, why the file disappeared when, within this, there are such serious allegations being made. It is incongruous, absolutely incongruous, that with the information in here, there could be no investigation. It is not possible that this would not raise all sorts of issues. I could, but it would be inappropriate, reveal more from other documents that I have seen from the same person, which would suggest that there's quite a lot of people who are aware of these issues. I am certain that there are people who are on the periphery, not involved in child abuse, not involved in anything that could be described as child abuse, but a bit too close for comfort in terms of embarrassment, who knew some of the things that might have been going on, who have suspicions, some of whom are named, and I think are guilty of nothing other than a loose connection of being at various events, of being at various venues. But they know things. It is clear from the correspondence I've seen that some of those people must know things. There's a lot of people. Part of the problem is, Chairman, that there are... The age of consent at the time was 16. When we say paedophilia, most people think we're talking about under 16s. At the time, the term could be used for 16 to 21-year-old men. The issue in terms of Dolphin Square and Lambeth was about the allegations that there were members of Parliament paying for sex with boys over 16 who had been procured from Lambeth children's homes after they left the children's homes. I'd call that major sleaze. At the time it was illegal. In here it also alleges things with children younger than that. I don't know, I haven't got a clue whether any of that is true or what bit is true. But there's sufficient there for a major police investigation. And that's why it's critical, absolutely critical, that the lid is lifted in relation to this, of knowing where the file went, why it disappeared, and what's going to happen now. The original is with the police, but why did the Home Office and the whole of government fail to come up with this document when it was given to Leon Britton in 1984? I think the answer to that question will unlock part of the cover-up of the time, will explain it, and will help the police. It's imperative that government now reopens the Wanless Whittam investigation to see why they weren't given this file at the time by someone from within the Home Office, and why civil servants at the time didn't cooperate.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Ms Vaz. And it is a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. I think it's the first time that I have done so, so it is a great pleasure to see you in the chair. And can I also congratulate the Honourable Member for Bassett Law for securing this debate today and for the points that he has raised. Both today and previously, he has been a tenacious campaigner on this matter, and he's very determined in this issue. Before I deal with the specifics of the topic of this debate, which is the Wanless Review and the Dickens file, it is important for me to highlight that tackling child sexual abuse is a top priority for this government. Victims should, and increasingly do, feel able to come forward to report abuse to the police and get the support they need. We've been consistently clear that where an allegation of child sexual abuse is made, whether it occurred now or in the past, it must be thoroughly investigated by the police so that the facts can be established. And let me be clear, this government is determined that forces do everything they can to bring perpetrators of child sexual abuse to justice. Child sexual abuse now has the status of a national threat in the strategic policing requirement. This means that forces are able to maximise specialist skills and expertise, both in preventing and investigating allegations of offending. Police forces and police and crime commissioners must have in place the capabilities they need to protect children from sexual abuse. It is sadly only too true that in the past these horrific crimes were not always given the priority that they should have had. We are understandably appalled that abuse was allowed to proliferate in the very institutions where children should have been most protected: schools, hospitals, care homes. But now child sexual abuse is rightly centre stage, an issue that we must confront. And I want to be clear, and the honourable gentleman alluded to this, it is important, incredibly important, that victims feel that they can come forward, that they will be listened to, and that they will be believed. So tackling this issue is a shared effort. The Tackling Child Sexual Exploitation report, published in March this year, sets out the national policy response to the failures we have seen in towns such as Rotherham, Manchester, Oxford and elsewhere. Collectively, the actions in that report will strengthen accountability and leadership in professions and local government, will address the culture of inaction and denial that led to victims being dismissed and ignored. It will improve joint working and information sharing so that agencies intervene early, strengthen the protection of children who are at risk, and reinforce law enforcement efforts to stop offending. And it will provide greater support for victims and survivors. It is a wide-reaching and ambitious programme of work driven forward with pace by an interministerial group chaired by my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, who shares with me a deep personal commitment to this important work. I'm sure that this broad range of activity will confirm to the honourable member that this government, which is absolutely committed to learning from the failures of the past and ensuring that they do not recur. It is in this context that I turn to the issue of the so-called Dickens dossier and the Wanless and Whittam review, which the honourable member has spoken about. It may be helpful if I set out the circumstances and findings of that review. In July 2014, my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, and the Home Office Permanent Secretary approached Peter Wanless, Chief Executive Officer of the NSPCC, and Richard Whittam QC, to ask them to conduct a review of 2 independent investigations in respect of information the Home Office had received about child sexual abuse during the period 1979 to 1999. Peter Wanless and Richard Whittam QC were chosen as esteemed, highly experienced and knowledgeable individuals in this field. Their review and findings were published last November. The Wanless and Whittam review focused in part on how the Home Office responded to information relating to the Dickens file, as well as how the police acted on any information passed to them at that time. As referenced in their report, Peter Wanless and Richard Whittam QC were given free access to the Home Office's filing system. They also undertook wider searches in other departments and agencies, and their requests were compiled with. And amongst their conclusions were the following statement: it is very difficult to prove anything definitive based on imperfectly operated paper record systems at 30 years remove. Whilst a sophisticated cover-up would be unlikely to leave papers in the general register system of a major government department, extensive searches of paper records for the period well beyond the Home Office itself had not uncovered any evidence of organised attempts by the Home Office to conceal child abuse, either in specific documents retained by them or others, or through an obvious pattern of destroyed files. Their work then shows that the original reviews did not cover anything up, but neither did they prove or disprove that the Home Office acted inappropriately. Likewise, they do not prove or disprove that public money ever found its way to the paedophile information exchange. But they did make clear that they saw no evidence to suggest that PIE was ever funded by the Home Office because of sympathy for its aims. Wanless and Whittam made 3 sets of recommendations for the Home Office, all of which related to the way the department dealt with sensitive allegations, how officials passed such information on to the police, and how the details of those allegations were properly recorded. The Permanent Secretary accepted all 3 sets of recommendations. And in the year since the report was published, the Home Office has undertaken considerable work to implement them. I would like to congratulate the Honourable Member for Bassetlaw for locating material which he believes constitutes the so-called Dickens dossier. I am unable to offer an explanation as to why he has apparently been able to locate these documents when the Home Office has not. I can only refer to the outcome of the diligent work by Mr Wanless and Whittam, who met with the Honourable Member for Bassett Law during the course of their review, and reiterate that neither they nor the previous independent reviewer were able to identify a Dickens dossier within the Department's holdings. I'm also grateful to the Honourable Member for passing whatever information he has to the Metropolitan Police Service. It is not for the Home Office or for me in my role as the Minister for Preventing Abuse and Exploitation to comment on or intervene in individual ongoing investigations. As such, I will not be commenting or speculating on what might be contained in those papers. It is quite right and proper that any material relevant to this matter or any allegation of child sexual abuse is passed to the police so it can be properly investigated, and I congratulate the Honourable Member on doing just that. I understand that the police are reviewing the documents that have been passed to them, and I look forward to hearing the outcome of that work. As I said at the beginning of my speech, it is vital that victims and survivors report the abuse they have suffered so that it can be investigated and the truth can be established. And this government is determined that no stone shall be left unturned in pursuit of that aim. And that is why my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, has established an independent statutory inquiry into child sexual abuse. The inquiry will challenge institutions and individuals without fear or favour and will get to the truth. Justice Goddard is leading the inquiry's important work and grasping this once-in-a-generation opportunity to expose what has gone wrong in the past and learn lessons for the future. The right place for further consideration of the Home Office's or other institutions' handling of the so-called Dickens dossier or other non-recent abuse allegations is the inquiry. The inquiry is free to consider evidence from any point in the past without restrictions and has the power to compel witnesses and call for evidence. We are committed that the inquiry will have the full cooperation of government and will have access to all relevant information, including secret information where appropriate. Although it would not be appropriate to give a blanket undertaking that people who have signed the Official Secrets Act should not be prosecuted for reporting information relating to possible child sexual abuse offences, my right honourable friend the Attorney General gave an undertaking on 15th of June this year that no document or evidence provided to the inquiry will result in or be used in any prosecution under the Official Secrets Act or any prosecution for unlawful possession of the evidence in question. Finally, and I cannot emphasise this point enough, the Home Secretary has been clear that it is vital that the whole of government fully cooperates with the inquiry on its important work. All departments must and will ensure that they have the systems and processes in place in order to do so. I can assure the Honourable Member that this is a government that is determined to uncover the truth. We must all work together to ensure that the inquiry is able to do so. Thank you.
The question is that this House has considered the Wanless review and the Dickens file. John Mann? Oh, okay. As many as are of that opinion say aye, of the contrary no. I think the ayes have it. Order, order.